What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Stas Arceli back with another banging video, man. And on today's episode, I want to talk about a discussion that I've had with people in the past. And the discussion is about military service rifles. Is the military grade service rifle superior than our civilian AR-15 rifles? That is today's episode. All right, so I've noticed that a lot of civilians like to throw the term military grade out there, but at the end of the day, what is military grade, and is it superior than civilian grade AR-15s or M4'S? That's what we're going to talk about today, because politicians, a lot of these senators and anti-gun politicians, man, who are all anti-gun, like they like to say, oh, military weapons, you don't need weapons of war and all this craziness, right? And at the end of the day, military grade is not what a lot of people think it is. People think military grade is some special technology that kills people faster or something, and that's not what military grade is. Military grade is just basically the list of specifications, the minimum specifications that a company need that meets the military's requirements for them to contract. So basically, military grade doesn't mean that it's the best of the best standards out there. Military grade means that it's the minimum standard that a company needs to adhere to get that military contract. So there's companies that have standards that surpass military grade standards, but the military don't want to pay for that. They want to spend the least amount of money to get the most amount of product. You know what I'm saying? So don't get all caught up with the whole military grade. And like I said, back to the topic at hand. Is a military service rifle M4, a military M4 service rifle, is it better than the civilian AR-15? Is it better? Does it perform better? Does it work more? Does it shoot further? Does it have more velocity over the civilian version AR-15s? And honestly, no, it doesn't. So what a lot of civilians don't know, because they're naive to the actual, firearms and regulations and stuff like that. A military service rifle, a military issued service rifle, the only difference that it has over the civilian M4s or civilian AR-15s is that, one, the safety selector switch on the military service rifle, it goes all the way back. You can flip it and there's gonna be a full auto selector. That's the only difference between a civilian AR-15 and a military issued rifle, is that you can go full auto. And of course, in the military, you have shorter barrels. Usually you have like 11.5s or 14.5s or whatever. And so you have shorter barrels, and you can have a foregrip on there. You can have a buttstock on there. And to the civilian market, that will be an NFA item, because it's less than 16 inches. But so the question I got asked is, was my military issued service rifle better than my civilian AR-15 counterpart? And I'm gonna be completely honest with you, it wasn't. Like I said, the only difference between my military service rifle, my military service M4 that I had, and any of my civilian AR-15s is that it has a full auto on the selector switch. You can shoot full auto. And is that really a big deal? Does having full auto capability, does that make the rifle a better shoot or a better weapon to suppress fire or anything like that? And honestly, I've been in the military for 10 and a half years, almost 11 years. And I think of all those years, there was only one time I've ever actually flipped that selector switch to full auto, and shoot rounds, and that was because we had to expend rounds, and so we just went ape shit and we just put it in full auto and we just let it rip, like, you know what I'm saying? But in an actual combat situation, I've never personally seen or dealt with anyone who actually put it in full auto to engage any type of enemy targets or anything like that. Sorry if you guys see me looking, it's because my living room windows right here and there's people walking by and driving by, and you know, it's just my, you know, it's just, you know, I'm just on it. But anyways, so I've never actually used full auto, and so a lot of the times, and I don't think majority of the soldiers in the military actually use full auto. I would say if I had to guesstimate a percentage, I would say maybe, and I'm gonna give it a high 20% of individuals in the military actually use the full auto in a combat situation. Maybe, possibly, because at the end of the day, when you shoot, when you go to the range and you sit and you when you go to the range and you flip that selector switch to full auto, you're not as accurate as when you got it in semi-auto. Because in full auto, you're just letting it rip, blah, 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 and you know, you might hit 1 or 2 rounds, but then the rest of the rounds is gonna be, you're not gonna be as accurate in full auto. So I don't think not having full auto on my personal civilian rifle, I don't think that it's a negative, because I would most likely rather shoot in semi-auto, because a lot of the times when we qualify and when we train in the military, you're shooting in semi-auto anyways. Like I said, I've never used fully automatic in any type of qualifications, any type of training, or, you know, any type of combat situation. It was literally just to expend ammo on the range day. Like, that's literally all it was. So is a military M4 far superior than a civilian AR-15? The answer is no, it's not. So a lot of these politicians, they like to throw the term military grade, and they like to say weapons of war, and they like to call them assault rifles because the AR-15 is an assault rifle. Assault, R, rifle. and that's not what even AR-15 means. AR-15 is Armor Light Rifleman. So AR-15 stands for Armor Light Rifleman, which was a company that made the first AR-15, man, for civilian use, man. So don't get caught up with these politicians calling them weapons of war. Like I said, any law-abiding civilian who has AR-15 is either going to be for sport, competition, or self-protection, man. We're not out there trying to go out there and kill a bunch of people with them. That's not what we do. Just because bad people use these weapons as tools, and honestly, majority of mass shootings is actually with pistols, not AR-15. But that's a whole nother story. If I had to choose right now, if I got called back into service right now, you know what I'm saying, the next World War kicked off and I got called back into service right now, and I could choose either getting M4 service rifle from the military or bringing my own Daniel Defense M4, I guarantee you I will rather take this rifle over my assigned service rifle any day of the week for several reasons. Reason one being that those Army or military service rifle, they get used and abused. When I say used and abused, I mean they get used and abused. You know what I mean? Those things been in service for years, shot hundreds, thousands of rounds through them probably. They get dropped, banged up, ran over, left in porta johns. You know what I'm saying? They fall off of buildings, they fall off of Humvees, they fall off of tanks, they get ran over by Humvees, ran over by tanks, they just get thrown around every day, man. Soldiers don't take care of their rifles like they used to, man. So I would much rather take my babied M4. I would much rather take this to a war. If I was to get drafted or selected back into the service, I will tell her, hey, the only condition is I get to bring my babies, man. I get to bring my babies. I have 3 of my babies with me. Let's roll. Let's do what we gotta do. So moral of the story is, don't get caught up with the whole military grade and military service M4 rifles thinking that there's something special. Because I promise you, unless you're special forces, some type of SOCOM special forces, Rangers or somebody, your service rifles is not it. Your service rifles is not, yes, don't get me wrong, some of them is Gucci'd up, especially with the PEC 15s, the lights, you know what I'm saying? You get the ACOGs and everything, like mine was pretty pimped out, like, you know what I'm saying? But when it came to just being abused and used, those rifles get used and abused, man. So I would much rather take my personal, yes, it doesn't have full auto like my military service rifle, but you know what? I never used it anyways, so I'm not missing anything. So to wrap this video up and to come to a conclusion, my conclusion about military service rifles and the term military grade, don't get caught up with that term, man. Don't get caught up with the whole military, it's military grade or mil spec. You know what I'm saying? Don't get caught up with mil spec, it's military spec, it's mil grade. Don't get caught up with that, man, because at the end of the day, military grade or military spec, mil spec is not what you think it is, man. Mil spec doesn't mean it's the top of the top of the top. Mil spec means it's not quite all the way to the bottom, but it's the minimum standards that the Army is gonna accept to use that rifle or to use that product in service, man. So don't get caught up with military grade. Don't get caught up with military spec. I see a lot of these civilians out here, man. They go, oh, yeah, it's military grade. Oh, yeah, it's military grade, and they're using military grade like it's a compliment to their rifle. And I'm like, if your rifle is military grade, it's not it. And I'm not talking trash of military, man. I love my military. I love America, and I love all that stands for the, you know what I'm saying, the United Armed Forces and everything. So I'm not talking trash, man, but I'm just talking to the civilians out there who don't know. You ask anybody who's in active service right now, ask anybody in active service if they would choose one, one of these or one of these over their service rifle, man. Ask anybody in service, and I promise you they're gonna want one of these. They would much rather take one of these rifles to a combat area than the actual issued rifle, man. So don't get caught up with the whole military grade, military spec crap, man. Like I said, it's just something that, you know, it's just the minimum standards that the military uses. So that doesn't mean that it's better, that doesn't mean that it's greater. There's a lot of better options in the civilian market, man. It's a lot of better options, you know. There's the civilian rifles. I would say the majority of civilian rifles, from guys who actually know what they're doing when they either buy a rifle or to put a rifle together, I promise you their civilian rifles is probably more capable than the issued military rifles that our service members have, man. So don't get caught up in that whole military grade, mil spec hype, man. It's not what you think it is. Don't worry about it, man. Bottom line, do I think the military service M4 is a better weapon than any of the civilian platforms that we have? My answer is hell no, man. In the civilian world, man, there's no limitations. You know what I'm saying? You can do what you gotta do to your rifle to make it just as good or a lot better for what the military service members are issued as their service rifles, man. So don't get caught up with that, man. But anyways, man, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. I took up enough of you guys' time. Let's get on to my final comments. So if you're new to the gun world and you go to those groups, those Facebook groups or Instagram chats or whatever, Telegram, whatever you're on, and you see these guys hyping up, no, this is mil grade, or this is mil spec, this is military grade, this is mil spec. Don't get caught up with that, man. Like I said, I'm not bashing the military service rifles at all. Them things are workhorses, man. They run, and I see some of those things run in conditions that I can't believe they ran in. But all I'm gonna tell you is, yes, the military service rifles, they're gonna run, they're gonna work. You know what I'm saying? As long as you maintain them, they're gonna work. But in the civilian market, man, you have so much more options. The sky's the limit. You're not limited to what you can do to your rifle, other than, of course, making it full auto, because ATS, hey, it's illegal for civilians to have a fully automatic weapon, which, whatever, man, the NFA Act is trash, and I think it's unconstitutional, but that's a whole nother topic right there. So at the end of the day, do I think the military service M4'S is better than the civilian AR15'S? No, I don't, because in the civilian world, the aftermarket world, there's so much better products that you can put on your rifles over what the military service rifles get issues. Like I said, unless you're special forces, unless you're a part of SOCOM and you have unlimited budgets, you know what I'm saying? If you're in the regular Army, you know what I'm saying? If you're in the regular Marines and stuff like that, man, hey, regular Navy, your service rifles, it's not it, man. Don't, like I said, they're workhorses. They're gonna run. They're gonna be reliable as long as you maintain them and keep them clean. But the civilian market, you have so much more options, so much more better options and parts and accessories that you can put on your rifle than when you're in the military, man. So that's my 2 cents, man. All right, so wrap this up, man. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for liking. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for doing everything that you do, man, because without you guys, there will be no me, man. So I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart. I truly do, man. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. We're almost there. Let's get to 3K subscribers, man. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you like what we do, man, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, man. Your boy really appreciate it, man. But anyways, man, until the next episode, remember, always be greater than you were yesterday. We live to train because we train to live. But most of all, I need you guys to understand, you are your own first responder, man. You are your own first responder. When you need help, if someone kicking your door at 2, 3 in the morning, right then, right there, that split second, you are your own first responder, man. The police ain't gonna be there when you need them. You gotta call them and they're gonna take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So understand, you are your own first responder, so you are responsible for saving your own ass. Don't depend on the police. Go out. If you got a firearm and you haven't shot it in months, you're wrong. If you have firearms and you have not shot them in months, you are wrong. Go out and shoot and train. You don't need to shoot hundreds of rounds. A box of 50, 2 boxes of 50, it'll get you a good training day, man. So stop using excuses that ammo's too expensive. Yes, I understand they're not the cheapest, but you can find ammo for $17, $16 for a box of 59mm, man. So there's no excuses, man. Go out and train, go out and shoot. So until next episode, we'll see you guys then. It's your boy, Staff Sergeant Seeley, signing out. Peace.